This week's episode of Still Untitled is brought to you by Video Blocks. Video Blocks offers a great value with an unlimited download model. Choose from a library of over 115,000 HD video clips, After Effects templates, motion backgrounds, and cinemagraphs. Audio Blocks also has over 130,000 music tracks, sound effects, and loops. On average, subscribers pay less than $1 per download over the course of a year. And they're continuously adding new content to the library so it stays fresh. Everything is 100% royalty-free, even if a subscription is canceled, and you have unrestricted usage rights for personal or commercial projects, and those rights never go away. You keep what you download. Now, Video Blocks is offering listeners of this podcast a year subscription to both Video Blocks and Audio Blocks for just $149. That's $100 discounted for our listeners only. Get your subscription today at videoblocks.com/stilluntitled2016. That's right. That's videoblocks.com/stilluntitled2016 for this exclusive offer. Now on with the show.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
I'm Simone.
Hey!
What? Was that loud?
That was very musical. It was
good.
lovely.
You had a
I'm
nice
Simone.
little lilt at the end.
Yeah, it's early in the morning.
Unlike Norm's usual, I'm Norm.
He actually did you last week.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd he do?
He did okay.
Okay.
He
6 out of 10?
I watched him look like a deer in the headlights for just a second, and then he was like, "Well, let's do this. Welcome to," and he
He
did
got
it.
the head swirl and
Yeah, he
everything.
got
Oh,
a
that's
little
good.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a head
That's my
swirl.
move. Yeah, it's a whole body performance over here.
So you were talking about sacking somebody.
Oh God, really?
Because well, look, I just want to say that, like, I don't think that the reason that you stated for sacking them way back in the past, I don't think it's a trivial reason, because even though what they were doing was trivial, it's like a mole that means cancer. It's like that trivial thing that they weren't paying attention to is indicative of their commitment to their job, and thus, if they're not willing to do that small thing, they're not really worth keeping around.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to give specifics, but so it was basically about not following style
person's
guidelines.
name is James Patterson, and they live at 13 Rude.
It was Dan Brown, and then he went on to write a whole series of books, and everybody lived happily ever. No, it was about so when you work at a publication with a bunch of people, you have to have a style guide, and that's how you ensure that. Well, in the old days when you did magazines, now everybody just writes their own thing and it works out because it's all blogs and nobody gives a shit. But in the old days, you would have a style guide, and that determined like what your voice for the magazine is and how you use language and what words are appropriate, what words aren't, and even all the way down to things like formatting. Like when you submit a review, you use, this is the capitalization format we use. We use the AP style guide, how many spaces between paragraphs, stuff like that.
They use the Oxford comma incorrectly.
We look.
What are we, animals? Look, we all have to use the Oxford comma.
The Oxford comma is, we always err on the side of clarity. That's one of the basic rules of human life. Yeah. So, anyway.
It amazes me that there's a debate. There's no debate.
Look, there are a lot of things that amazes me that there's a debate about right now.
Yeah.
The Oxford comma is one that's fun to argue about because it's ultimately meaningless and only has caused a couple of wars. So, now if you want to talk about some real problems, we should talk about GIFs.
GIFs.
What?
No, GIFs.
GIFs?
The graphics interchange format as invented in the early 80s.
A GIF, yeah.
GIFs?
The GIF.
That's my livelihood, dude.
What?
Yeah. It's like whenever I build a project, I think GIF first.
Oh,
like how is this going to translate into a GIF? And I think it's such a good rule of thumb because it means that your project has to be so self-explanatory and straightforward that you can just explain it in a 7-second.
That's so funny.
Like clip without audio.
That's a super good focusing technique. But I've never seen any giraffes, or I don't drink gin.
It's let's not litigate this one. I wrote Mythbusters episodes along the same exact lines, which was I knew I was in a good place if I knew precisely what the last experiment would be. I knew the punchline. As long as I know the punchline, I can write the episode towards that and keep it kind of floating until then. But yeah, I need to know the punchline first.
Well, it's about figuring out what the surprise and delight moment is for the audience, right?
Yeah.
How does it all wrap back around and come in on people?
Well, so on weirdly, I think it was like Business Insider or something like that, asked Jerry Seinfeld, how do you write a joke? And he had this lovely thing he said, which was, Well, when I go to the pool, he says, I like to hold my breath in standard water as long as possible. It's like my favorite thing to do. And he says, when I write a joke, I do the opposite. I take the punchline and I want to keep it up in the air as long as possible. And this is, to illustrate this even further, in the beginning days of my friendship with Bill Prady, who's one of the co-creator of Big Bang Theory, and Steve Milaro over there, who's now the showrunner, I was hanging out on set, and Bill Prady was complaining to me that we had done an episode about ninjas. He's like, there are no ninjas. You had done
an episode about ninjas. Okay.
He said, you guys did an episode about ninjas. There are no ninjas. The ninja line was broken in the 18th century. It's ludicrous for you to do. It's like doing an episode about Minutemen.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, all right. And then one of his writers was like, well, Bill, you're a Minuteman, aren't you? And he said, well, yes, I am. And they started doing this mock interview, right? Improvisation in the writers' room at Big Bang, where he's like, you know, to describe to me, he's like, well, you know, I've got all the gear in my Passat, and if I get the alarm, I can, you know, and on and on and on and on and on and on. After like 5 full minutes, the writer goes, so, you know, if you get the alarm, how long does it take you to get going? And Bill's like, about 8 or 9 minutes. Right? And I'm laughing hysterically. And a few months later, we're at Comic-Con having dinner, and I said, how did your writer and you both know? Because clearly
you yes and.
What's that? Well, but even more than that, I said, how did you both know where the joke was going? And he said, any comedy writer worth his salt understands the punchline right off the premises, instantly. The goal is take as long as you can to get there, without wasting anybody's time.
That would be a fun game to play where you watch comedy and you all had to pause at different increments and you have to guess what the punchline is.
Yes.
Where are they going with this joke? It's like Jeopardy, but with comedy.
There's a board game. I want to say it's called the metagame, but I think that's not it. It's basically that they present you with a punchline, and you have to work your way up through it.
Oh, nice!
Nice.
If you play Cards Against Humanity with people who are actually funny instead of people who think like the most obscene thing is the funniest thing, right. Then Cards Against Humanity works kind of this.
Balls deep into a squealing.
Glenn Beck's rippling.
Wow.
Yeah,
that escalated.
We're gonna have some good stuff to bleep this week.
My friend Ben Acker of Acker and Blacker, the writers of the Thrilling Adventure Hour, we were talking about something, and he said, "Oh, that guy, he's balls deep in the spectrum."
Wow!
I was laughing.
But I've always been confused about the expression "balls deep." Do we want to dive into this?
No, we can't talk about that one here. We can talk about balls to the wall if you'd like, Simone.
A poor, confused Swede.
Balls to the wall is an elevator governor.
Oh, I thought it was like the firewall on a throttle.
We talked about this on the podcast before.
The balls to the wall is an elevator when it's going down has little parallelograms of these steel balls on a thing that basically, as it's spinning faster, they go out and they slow it down, the centrifugal force. And so it's called a governor. And when you say we're going to go balls out, that means you're going as fast as the governor will allow you to go.
But
I believe balls to the wall is the same thing.
Well, the problem, I just picture it.
Yeah, like I've been doing that wrong all this time. Who knew? My poor wife.
His poor
Marriage
wife.
is fun. Yeah.
Anyway,
so there was a segue in there somewhere.
We promised last week that Simone would tell a story, and let me just preface this story by saying, I found Simone's amazing videos online, and then we started corresponding, and you became part of the Tested family, and then you moved to San Francisco, and you were here for like 2 months before you revealed to me this story, which I found astounding that you could keep it to yourself for that long.
I was worried I was going to insult you. You never know.
Were you like following him down the mission one day?
No, that too. But okay, but so prior to coming to Tested and actually starting like the whole Queen of Shitty Robot stuff, I was obviously a huge Mythbusters fan, as anyone. I actually got a Facebook memory a couple of weeks ago where it was 6 years ago, and I was like, if I could only have one wish, it would be to become a Mythbuster. Hey,
nice job.
And I almost started crying because my friend Tobias and I walked down the street here in the Mission, and we passed you, and I didn't see you. And he was like, Simone, did you see who that was? And I was like, what? Who? It's like, what? One of the Mythbusters guys. And I was like, which one? He's like, I don't know. One of them. And I was like, was it Adam? I got so upset. But I did, so I was a huge fangirl, and I applied to be a volunteer on the show 3 times, and that was one of the things that I was excited about moving to the Bay Area, that I was going to be on Mythbusters.
Wow. And you moved to the Bay Area. This was before a couple of years ago. You lived here for a couple of years.
So this was 3 years ago that I moved, and I started doing like Shitty Robots 1.5 years ago. So it was prior to that. But right before I was going to move from the Bay Area, I got a spot, and I was so excited. And I don't have a driver's license, so I had to get up at 5 a.m. to like do public transportation into, I can't remember, it was like an amusement park field.
It was out of the it was these fairgrounds.
Yeah.
I don't think you should tell. I think you should. I think that there's a game here. I don't think that you should tell specifically which episode you were on.
Oh, no.
And I bet people can find it.
Oh, really?
Well, you think they would? I think we should tell.
Yeah, we should tell it, because that's the punchline. That's the punchline.
I just think we should make it last as long as possible.
Look at the fairgrounds. It was the same fairgrounds we shot Herding Cats and a couple of other stories.
God, I didn't know you actually did Herding Cats.
Yeah, we did.
That sounds like a nightmare.
That sounds horrible.
Total nightmare.
And I did not volunteer on that episode, but I was so excited, and I was like, I know you don't do explosions when volunteers are there, but I was like, we're gonna do some cool stuff. And I get there was like 150 people on set, and just majority volunteers. And turns out that the myth that we're busting, because they don't tell you that beforehand, was to see which type of line you perceive takes the longest.
Was it the one for the finale?
No. It was a grocery store line. Like, is it better to have one line that feeds to all the cashiers, or multiple
Whole
lines?
Foods or Safeway.
Yeah.
But let's track this back.
So you were in the grocery store?
So excited.
She's one of the grocery store
That was the last season, right?
No.
Oh. Did you do that twice?
I think it was the last season.
Was it the last season?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay, it might have been. Oh, yeah, you're right. Because we made like 8,000 labeled cans of like
it was
beans
a
and
wild. I mean,
bacon and
the
stuff.
size of it, just the sheer size of the project, was impressive considering all the volunteers and all the products. You'd built out this whole like Mythbust store.
Mythbust store.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Great. It's great.
Horrifying.
But,
But
there I am, so pumped, and then I realized that all I get to do is to stand fake shop groceries and stand in a freaking line. And then I was just like, and at least I got to, because there were a lot of people who didn't even get to be in the store. At least I got to be in the store. I actually watched the episode a couple of weeks ago. I'm not anywhere in it. You can't, which is a bummer. But
we took a photo, right? Did we take a photo with everybody?
I can't remember. Maybe we should
usually
find
do
us.
that.
I did take a photo with Jamie. He was very grumpy.
That was the last time anyone saw him.
He was right about to go to the restroom, and I was like, Jamie, please can I take a photo? And he was like, oh, okay. It's a terrible photo. And I remember at the end of it, I was like, at least I'm going to get some sweet swag. Like, I can get like a Mythbusters t-shirt or whatever. All I got was a pen.
You know, I think I've got a Mythbusters t-shirt upstairs for you if you want one.
Please remedy this, Adam.
I will totally.
This disappointment.
So she was on an episode of Mythbusters.
I was never on an episode of Mythbusters.
Yeah. No, we never even asked.
No, we never even. I didn't. I was like, we did get to come and watch an explosion once.
Which one?
One of the last, the still. When you guys made those gorgeous stills. We came out and sat in the
that was at the Alameda County Sheriff's
at the bombing range, and we stood. I had no idea how far away that bunker is.
500 feet,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
But we were in there, and it was a long time because like it was unclear when they were going to explode.
Oh, it's just hours of waiting.
Like hours and hours of waiting, and we were in there with Temple Grandin.
Oh, that day! Oh my God, that was so fun!
Like the most fascinating conversation.
Temple Grandin. So do you know Temple Grandin? Temple Grandin is very. She's very much on the spectrum. Asperger's. She's a legendary hero. There was an amazing HBO film, I believe, starring Claire Danes.
Yep.
So Temple Grandin changed the entire meat slaughtering industry by realizing the problem with it at the time she was becoming, building her career, was that cows could see other cows getting killed and they were getting stressed out and they were freaking out and dumping all this adrenaline into their system. So she invented this machine that hugs cows just before they get killed. And she actually got an award from the PETA for humane treatment of animals under these conditions. And she's basically spent her whole life alleviating suffering. And I interviewed her on stage the night before that episode, and she turned out to be a huge Mythbusters fan. She didn't know I was going to be her interviewer until she showed up, and she was incredibly, amazingly gracious. And then when I invited her out for an episode, she was like, oh, yes. She totally came out. And then I got to watch her almost flirt with Jamie.
I can see that.
So she met Jamie and she was like, hello, Jamie. And she seemed to catch her breath. It was really cute. And then we spent that whole day. Yeah, she's incredible.
We were like, I don't remember what we were talking about, but I remember Norman, Joey, and I were in there, and she was there with her assistant
she's a good friend of hers in East Bay.
And we were just kind of just chatting, waiting for some stills to blow up. Yeah, which was.
Sounds like you had a better experience than I had.
Look, that grocery store episode, I apply the lessons learned in that every time I'm waiting in line at Safeway.
Which is
because the lesson is it's the number of transactions, not the amount of items. That was one of the takeaways you had at the end of that episode.
Oh, did I? Okay. There's a lot to remember.
Well, but the point was they can scan 50 things and 20 things in about the same amount of time, but actually swiping the card and signing the thing and all that stuff takes time. Yeah. And if, God forbid, you get somebody with a check.
We added that in occasionally.
Really?
People
I'm so baffled here in the States. I'd never written a check prior to moving to the States.
Yeah.
And it's still when I was working in Sweden and I would freelance for some American magazines and they would send me a check. And I'm like, this is going to be just $50 to my bank to process.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Well, it's $50 to you or $50 to them, and they're going to defer it to you.
It's just, but
I'm a small businessman.
Weird.
I know how this works. Here, let me send you a chit.
It's freezing in San Francisco.
It's not freezing in San Francisco.
No, it's not freezing in San Francisco.
You've gotten soft, man.
I have gotten soft, but look, I don't leave the house with enough clothes as a bulwark against 40-degree weather. And it feels quite cold.
Yeah. What type of heating do you have in here?
None.
Zilch.
It's San Francisco.
Really?
Oh, this is.
I wore my gloves and my hat this morning when I got in the car, despite it being 41 degrees. I also have gone soft.
Yeah.
You laugh, but if you're here for 5 or 6 years,
oh gosh,
you're gonna wake up one morning. Because I grew up in the mountains of Tennessee, where it actually it's not Scandinavia cold, but it gets snowy and cold.
Simone wakes up every morning and chips the ice off of her bare feet in order to clomp to the bathroom.
When I was living on a houseboat in Stockholm. I mean, that was I used to have frost on the inside of my windows.
Did it get frozen in?
It totally gets frozen in. And also, I came to a point when I realized it was colder in my kitchen than in my refrigerator. So I realized I could just turn it off.
The refrigerator was a heater.
Yeah, the refrigerator was definitely a heater.
So when you're on because we had boats when I was we had houseboats when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And
here in California?
No, I was in Tennessee. So same thing, but we had to winterize.
Yeah.
It's east in the mountains.
Yeah. Thanks.
But we had them on freshwater lakes, and it never got cold enough to freeze the water. But you did have to winterize the boat and get all the water out of the engine block and stuff like that, or else it would presumably crack if the power went off.
Yeah.
Right.
There are a lot of issues around that. I mean, especially because it freezes in, which is actually really nice because then it stops rocking and it's just still.
I like the rocking.
But you were describing to us in one of our early phone calls back at the beginning of our association, you were saying, we're frozen in right now, and if you think it's quiet, you said, we're hearing these cracks in the ice moving across the river that are making the whole boat reverberate.
Yeah, it's either that. I mean, sometimes you can hear it almost sounds like whales because the ice gets these cracks and it's
nice.
But then as soon as it starts cracking up, it's just scraping against a hull, and it's actually really loud.
Is it metal hull?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's metal hull. I have an icebreaker tugboat.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a pretty, but yeah, I always have to keep it heated in the engine room and things like that. So the sewage system and the
you don't want the chemical. Down. You don't want the marine toilet to freeze. That's not good.
It's happened.
No, if you ever meet Jamie,
Yeah.
And you will again at some point, I suspect. You should talk to him about living on a boat because he lived on a sailboat for 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been considering. Yeah, I'm looking to different living options.
There's houseboats here.
Yeah, I know, and it makes more sense to live on a houseboat here than in Sweden.
I think most of them are boat houses here, so they're like floating tenements instead of boats.
Floating tenements. Speaking of Tennessee, they've been going through some terrible things lately. Do you have friends and colleagues affected? Huge wildfires.
Well, they had an epic drought this summer, which has been followed by what are presumably arson-boosted wildfires. So my family, I still have family in Northeast Tennessee, further north than where the bad fires are, but close enough that they see bad air and smoke, and there's fires everywhere.
As in your parents, or remote?
My parents are still holding on to the childhood home, but have bought a kind of more suitable retirement place a little bit further north, because that's what apparently everybody does is move north when they retire. So they're all fine. All that's good. The bad stuff that's happened has been in North Carolina and kind of southeastern Tennessee near Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And earlier this week they had 80-mile-an-hour winds. They had what looked like a firestorm from what I was able to see through Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge.
What does firestorm entail?
It's like fire with wind with fire in it instead of just wind.
It's like the whole world becomes a blowtorch.
Wow, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
That sounds like Sharknado.
It's precisely like Sharknado, only worse.
Yeah,
only worse than real.
You know when you blow your fireplace with the bellows and it's like that? Yeah, like that, except for the fires blowing across roads and stuff. So they lost like 150 structures plus tons and tons of vacation homes. So it's the good news is it's not heavily populated.
Yeah,
normally,
the death toll's been like 3 people. It's very low.
Very low.
I'm glad not many people have been injured or killed.
It's primarily like it's very dense, but it's a vacation area. So I think a lot of the people that were there visiting probably got out early and they didn't have 3 cars that they had to get out and stuff like that. So it wasn't like evacuating wasn't too bad. But it's a place I spent a lot of time. I used to go backpacking there, and I used to go visit friends. And when I was in college, we'd rent a house there and go drink really cheap beer and sit in the hot tub. So it's really sad, and it's one of those. I think it's the most visited national park still, Great Smoky Mountains.
Wow!
Oh wow!
So because it's
in all of the states.
In all of the states, yeah. Wow. Well, because it's kind of centrally located on the east coast. So it's It's a 10-hour drive from DC or 5 hours from Atlanta, and all of North Carolina it's easy to get to, and it's really really gorgeous. But yeah, it's really sad.
Brutal.
A lot of, it's the community, as always they do, has pulled together in a really lovely way, and the Dollywood Foundation is giving money to everybody whose houses got burned down until they get back settled, and people are taking care of each other, which is always the kind of heartwarming thing that comes out of stuff like this.
Our holiday, our thoughts and wishes out to those folks down there.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That
sad.
was
Should we just finish by singing Hallelujah and call it a day?
I don't think that we should slaughter.
Wow.
Anything else going on in there exciting for you guys?
I'm excited. I'm participating in the Reddit Secret Santa.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
you're a good draw.
I don't know. I try. I've done it once before. It's fun, but I'm excited because I got like a woodworker / space nerd. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of what I should make him.
And right now, all the woodworkers / space nerds are really like, oh my god, I'm gonna get a robot. It's gonna be so shitty.
I am participating in the Imager Secret Santa.
Yeah, there's one of those.
And I've got a science fiction nerd.
Oh wow, lucky you.
How's that? You have no common ground there.
Drawing a total blank. Actually, I already figured out their gift, and it's so cool. I'm gonna make 2 of them because I gotta make one for myself too. I'm gonna do it as a build untested. So
I was thinking about that too. I was like, I want to do it as a build.
Totally.
Yeah.
I spent I spent a good portion this week making new shelves for one of my walls and making some cabinets and making some enclosures and stuff, and it's been really productive. But I have to say, I felt guilty not filming any of it.
Oh gosh, I do that too. I'm like, I could have done this, but I just want to do it on the fly, like right now. And then it's
selfish people.
We're selfish.
Look, I'm sorry. I can't. I have no control over them anymore.
Norm.
My Kickstarter funded last week.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Yeah. Congratulations. We've been stumping
excited.
for it here on the podcast. I'm really glad. That's fantastic.
It's
How you reach your goal?
we reached our goal.
That's mad.
Now you
What
get
was
to-
your goal?
50
Now
grand.
it's like 18 months till you write an essay about how everything went to hell.
I'm going to wait till the very last minute. I've got to
friend,
get
Adam.
outside of the country.
It's the
and
number
then,
of lessons I learned by screwing up my Kickstarter.
The Medium post is
all-
coming.
It's just amazing how many of those I've read.
so first I have to say that I had no idea how difficult the crowdfunding campaigns are actually in practice. Like we've covered a lot of them, tested over the years, and I had like you looked at it and you're like, oh, this is like a feature-length article with a video, right? And then it's absolutely way more work than a feature-length article with a video.
So in what ways is it more work? Like what were the surprising parts?
So the big thing is that like getting the video right is there's a really specific tone, and after we finish the campaign, I'm happy to come on and talk more about that stuff, so it doesn't look like I'm shilling for my thing. But it's like you have. I made a classic, what the Kickstarter folks described as a classic Kickstarter mistake by making the first video about what we need as a company to do the thing that we want to do, instead of making it about what the people who are backing the Kickstarter want to get from that Kickstarter. It's small tone things like that, and it's a very different challenge than writing, say, for an entertainment website or an information website, or to inform or entertain people.
Right.
And it's not something I didn't have those muscles to stretch, so I had to learn how to do that stuff. The other thing that's really hard is if you're a slightly obsessive person like I am, it's really easy to get like really buried in the esoterica of like, well, what if I let's see, these Facebook ads cost $4 to get a conversion. Can I use Facebook ads to get more people on the and then looking at like keyword traffic and how you do post, and at the end of the day, what really matters is
I'm sorry, I fell asleep there for a
I
second.
know, it's terrible, right? what really, and like you wake up first thing in the morning, you're like, we got 50 more people. That's great. Okay, we need to get 200 people today.
Yeah.
And what really matters is that people out there are excited about this thing that you made enough to give you money to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Which is the super cool thing. And I've never really done that. Like, I've never been in a position to do that before. So it's really exciting. And,
That's cool.
It's been really
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I can't wait
great.
to see how it goes.
So we have stretch goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We're going to do hats.
Plug that. Hats.
Okay.
So like
That's
people
great.
will put hats in the world that people can put on the guest's head.
Yeah.
Good.
Whatever hat they want. Some dumb ones.
Are you going to end
That's
up with
great.
some gold farming so people,
What do you mean gold farming?
I have no idea what I'm saying.
Mid-early 2000s reference?
Yeah.
It's Friday morning.
It's pretty early. We only had one coffee so far.
But how are you feeling now? Are you feeling, because I feel like sometimes when you reach your goals, you're like, yeah, I did it. And then you're like, you just get a little bit deflated.
We have a pretty good plan of attack, and we have the Kickstarter has knocked loose a lot of interest in the thing that we've built, just the publicity we got around that. And so we are so busy that there's not time to be kind of deflated right now.
That's good.
Which is a good place to be.
Yeah.
It's a little terrifying, but yeah, like we're confident that we can deliver what we've promised. It was a modest promise. We're only doing 5 episodes, so I feel pretty good about it.
really
And we're
cool.
really excited that people like, it's fun to be on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And terrifying for after covering Kickstarter stuff since the very beginning.
It's going to go great.
So
It's going to go great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You'll do great.
I'm gone all this week.
Oh, wow.
That this is airing. I'm in, where am I going? I'm going to Toronto and to DC and to Park City.
Ooh, Park City, Utah is delightful.
Park City, Utah. I've never been there.
That's are you going to ski or are you going for work?
I'm going for an appearance. I'm going to appear on stage on Saturday in Park City doing a Q&A.
That was the first place I ever went skiing on the West Coast.
Really?
And I realized why people would want to go skiing as a result of going skiing on the West Coast.
Because it's warmer and it's...
Because there's snow instead of ice. So where I learned to ski, you skied on solid sheets of packed ice that were made by machines.
Yeah.
And if you're really good and fast, it's really exciting. But I'm not an alpine skier, so...
I only went skiing once.
Okay.
My whole life we did
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't something I grew up doing, and then Mythbusters did a week long, 8 days worth of an episode in Telluride, Colorado, which is unbelievable skiing. And we had a day off, and so some of the mountain rescue people were like, well, we can take you out skiing. So I thought that was great. So I pick it up pretty quickly. I'm going down a blue route. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm falling, and I fall like a drunk, so, I'm not getting hurt. But the second time I fall, I look back up the hill, and I can see that the mountain rescue people, the two who are like with me, shadowing me, are like practically losing their lunch, nauseous, watching me fall. And I realized, oh my God, they've been told don't let him get hurt. Like I'm ruining their day by careening down this hill. So I got to the bottom and I was like, I think I'm good. And they were like, let's go.
You broke Adam Savage. He was your responsibility.
I've had that responsibility before, the don't break Adam Savage job. It's not a fun job. Thank you for appreciating that.
I'm like a toddler. I'm like, why can't this knife go?
Look, I got 6 knives and fire.
Yeah, I got that when you tried the Deal With It robot. So a robot arm that was mounted on your head and it lowered your glasses, and people were like, what if you would have poked one of Adam's eyes out?
Really?
I would have broken Adam Savage.
Yeah.
I just have an eye patch.
That would be cool. You could rock an eye patch.
I could rock an eye. I had an eye patch when I was a kid. I think I tweeted this photo years ago. I'll have to find it again. I had a scratched cornea, and I had a patch for a couple of days, and I was looking at this patch, and I was like, that doesn't look weird enough. So I cut a big full-size eye out of a fashion magazine, and I pasted it on my patch.
Oh my God.
You've
You've always been you.
Yeah.
I was like 16, and my whole family was like, we can't look at you. You just can't even...
Did you do like cattywampus?
Yeah, no, I look like Quasimodo. I look like it was melting off my face.
What's going on in Toronto and Washington? Anything you can talk about?
Let's see. In Washington, I am meeting some amazing people, some colleagues about some future plans, both for Nation of Makers and for some other future plans about moving forward and getting kids interested in making and building infrastructures for that sort of thing. And in Toronto, I'll be doing... I think I'll be seeing Guillermo del Toro under the auspices of a new potential venture. So I'm going to be interviewing him, and that interview should be available to the public after the next few months.
The pictures that you took at his Lakshma exposition
And the LACMA?
was unbelievable.
That exhibition was so beautiful. You weren't here last week when we talked about it, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was really, really thrilling and beautiful. And there's a great book from it.
Yeah.
It was not what I expected. I didn't realize how much of it would be on the inspiration. So really, a very small percentage was stuff from his films, and more of it was stuff that inspired his films.
It's stuff from his house, right?
Yeah, the designers that he loves, and then the I said this last week, but the LACMA brought pieces out of its permanent collection that augmented and helped deepen the commentary. Just a great look.
Cool.
LACMA is an amazing place. I went there twice in 2 days and was not remotely bored. It's a fantastic museum.
I've never like gone in there and come out and been like, well, that was a waste of time.
Yeah. No, it's
a fabulous museum.
I don't know if you've ever been.
No.
It's great.
Yeah.
And right out front there's this what is the collective noun for street lamps? There's like 80 street lamps in this
row?
tight grid. It's a sculpture by Chris Burden. And it's really, really cool, and you can almost not take a bad picture of it. I will show you guys a picture, and then because it's rude to do that without sharing,
we'll share it.
We'll make sure we post this online so that you guys can see. Come on, where is this?
On your Instagram?
Wait a second.
This is some really compelling
content.
Content.
Isn't this thrilling?
Yeah.
This is content happening right in front of you. There you go.
Yeah.
That is the Chris Burden street
that is
lamp
lovely.
sculpture in the rain.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It looks like a bunch of street lamps.
It's precisely what it is. Wasn't that thrilling, everybody?
Yeah,
You're welcome.
This is the new media. This is why television is dying.
Yeah, right there. Let's listen to us look at Adam scrolling on his phone.
My favorite thing to do when I'm listening to podcasts is to yell at the radio in my car. Yeah. So, I think we got a lot of that in this week.
We got a lot of that in this week. Thanks for yelling at your radio in the car.
Yeah.
We'll be
Thanks
back
for listening.
next week. Are we going to do another one now? Is it going to be us or is Norm back next week?
No, Norm is back next week. Norm is back. We're not going to do another one right now. I have a phone call.
Okay, and then my Kickstarter is still live at foovr.com/Kickstarter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 more days, and there will be some dope stretch goals that go beyond hats. We might have a band leader.
What?
Yeah, virtual band leader.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
The Roots, right?
I wish I could. Look, holy shit, I can't believe we talked about the Hamilton mixtape, which came out the morning we recorded this.
Dude, yeah, we'll talk about this next week. Hamilton mixtape, go get it.
Oh my God.
It's I think my favorite, weirdly, right now, it's so hard to choose, but I'm really digging Kelly Clarkson doing It's
so
Quiet
good.
Uptown.
It's so good.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll explain after the podcast. And Simone is still awesome.
Oh, thank you.
just in case anyone was wondering.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
That is always great to hear. You're both awesome too.
Cheers.
Yeah, everybody's awesome.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Everything is awesome. Okay, see you guys later. See you.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye. Thanks for listening.
This week's episode of Still Untitled was also brought to you by Casper Mattresses. Casper is, of course, an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. Mattresses can cost well over $1,500, but Casper Mattresses cost $500 for a twin-size mattress, up to $950 for a king. It combines springy latex and supportive memory foams to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right amount of sink and just the right bounce. An in-house team of engineers spent thousands of hours developing the Casper. Its breathable design helps you regulate your temperature throughout the night. Time magazine even named it one of the best inventions of 2015. Try Casper for 100 nights risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Casper understands the importance of truly sleeping on a mattress before you commit, especially if you're going to spend a third of your life on it. And Casper mattresses are, of course, made in America, and you have free shipping and returns in the US and Canada. Now, listeners of Still Untitled will get $50 toward any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/untitled and using the offer code Untitled. Again, that's www.casper.com/untitled and using the offer code Untitled. Terms and conditions apply. See you next week.